Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe back, and I'm going to do my March reading stats for 2018. This is going to be kind of fun. I just love doing these, just talking about numbers and how many books I read and what kind of books I read, because it's kind of interesting to kind of see that data. I've been tracking my reading for many years on, at least for the last, I would say 11, 12 years. Not fully those years. I would say at least 10 of those years I've been tracking what I've read and stuff, like how many pages per day. And I always have an average of 50 pages a day that I would like to hit. So to watch that, I would list what books I was reading and how many pages that day I read. And it's been something I've been, as I said, tracking. I would say it's just about 10 years almost now. I have lists of books that I've read from a really long back before that, but it's kind of neat to go back and look at how many books I read each month and like things I did, because I combine the Excel sheet with how much writing and how much reading. So anyway, so we're just gonna go through the stats of the month. I just think it's kind of fun, so here we go. So I have a list of 13 questions I asked myself to kind of prompt me into this video, so here we go. How many books did I finish this month? I finished 8 books that I would count as 8, and then I would have 2 rereads. So those 2 rereads are like, what I consider that is something that I have read within the last 10 years. If it's something that I read before, like 10 years back before that, then I get to count those pages again. But if it's within the last 10 years, I do not count it. I just count it as a reread. I don't add extra pages to my pages per day, even though technically I read, but it's a reread. So it's not quite the same intense experience as when you read something that's older or you've never read before. So if that makes any sense, you have to let me know if that does or not. But that's the way I calculate my reading. So as I said, I had 8 books that I counted and 2 rereads that I did not. How many books were physical? So all of them but one, I had an audiobook that I was re-listening to. That was actually one of my rereads. I was listening to it to try to get finish a series, which I still haven't finished yet, but at least I caught up to where I had read before. But anyway, I finished that audiobook, so that's the only one that was not physical this month. I read everything else was a physical book that I picked up, for the most part. How many audiobooks? As I said, 1 I finished. I did start another one, which was one of my DNFs, but it's not a DNF as in I hated it. It was more of, I just don't want to read this right now. So it's in my DNF number, but I would say one is one of the rereads. Number 4 is how many graphic novels. Now, I didn't read any graphic novels. I did read a little comic strip book by Liz Climo, and they're just so cute. I just love all her little animals and stuff. So that one's 1. Oh, God. Cooper, no. Sorry, cat, trying to get up. No. So that was the only graphic thing I read this month. That's how it works sometimes. Number 5, any rereads. So here's the big number. So as I said, I had 2 rereads that I consider rereads, as in I read them within the last 10 years, actually last couple of years. So I read 1 physical and 1 audiobook, both by Nalingi Singh, which is hilarious. But then of the 8 books that I count as reads this month, 5 of them were rereads from my past. So one of them is from 17 years ago, and the other ones are over 20 years ago. So anyway, so they were a long time ago, and they were all great fun. So my cat is being a pain. Anyway, so let's hear. So did I have any DNFs? I had 3 DNFs. 2 of them were DNFs, and then the one I just told, the audiobook I told you about, I just gave up on. So I DNF'd The Armored Saint by Mike Cole. I just found that it just didn't work out for me. I know a lot of people love it, and I just could not get into it. And I was near the end. I'm talking 40 pages from the end of that novella, and I just could not do it. The other one was Still Life by Louise Penny. And that had to do with the way we were jumping heads. I just could not handle the way their narrative was jumping from person to person. all the suspects and the inspector. I just couldn't handle it. If we'd just been in the inspector's head or one of the suspects or something, like, it wouldn't have been so bad, but it's like we were jumping all over the place and I could not handle it. And then I tried to read Born by Jeff Vandermeer, and I wasn't feeling it. I was listening to that on audio from the library, and I listened to a little bit, and I just was like, I don't feel like this, and I don't have to read it if I don't want to. So I didn't. I turned it back in. So that's it. Number 7 is how many were from my TBR and how many from my library. So of the books that I read, 2 of them I would consider on my shelf because a lot of them were rereads. I'm not counting that they weren't on my TBR. I'd already read them many, many years ago, but 2 of them I read were from my TBR. And then 1 was from the library. So here we go. So the number of pages I read for the month was 2,761 pages, which comes out to just over 89 pages a day. So it was a really good reading month for me. Again, my goal is 50 pages a day, and I think I did really well with 89. Now again, I counted a lot of the rereads because they were from a long time ago, and a lot of them I didn't remember. Like, I know I read them, but I didn't remember anything about them. So it was really kind of, again, it was a great reading month that way. And again, March Mystery Madness was also going on, and it was funny that almost all these like went for that. So going into question number 10 is what were my star ratings. So breaking it down, it looks kind of funny because there's so many rereads. So I actually had a great 5-star month because I had 2 books that were new to me. Oh, I think I forgot a book. We'll have to see. I'll count. So I had 2 new books that were 5-star reads for me. And one was like more like a 4.5, but I kind of bumped it up to a 5 because one of my favorite authors. And then I had 3 of my rereads were 5-star reads. Like, they're still 5-star reads. They were awesome. I had 1 reread that was like a 4-star read, and then I had a 3-star read. I had 1 that was a new read, and 1 was a reread. So that kind of, I was, at least, and again, I don't count my DNFs in like the 1 or 2. If I finish the book and I get to those numbers, that's bad, but none of them were that bad, so that's good. So the genres I read were pretty much all mystery. All the books that I read, except for the rereads, those, the 2 new rereads that I'm not counting because those were in other genres, so I'm not counting those 2. But of the ones that I'm counting page-wise and stuff, which is, I guess this is getting a little complicated. Sorry about that, guys. But everything was mystery. All of it was mystery, except for one was a mystery, but it was urban fantasy. So kind of on the edge. And then all the rest of them were different kinds of mysteries because I was all over the board with that. But everything, that one was technically a mystery, but it's also urban fantasy. So I counted more urban fantasy, and then everything else was a mystery. They're all different kinds, but they're awesome. So it was like the only month I've had where they're all almost all the same genre. But it was because it was March Mystery Madness, and it just worked out that way because I had so much fun reading those books. Favorite book of the month. So I really want to pick one, but it was so hard because I had so many 5-star reads. And again, some of them were because I hadn't read them in so long. So there were the 2 5-star reads that were new to me. I like them, but I mean, I love them, but they're not my favorite of the month. They're still good, and they'll be on our reread. I'll be reading those again later. But the favorite books I had were 3 of my rereads from when I was younger. So House of Leaves by Mark L. Danielowski, The Stone Bull by Phyllis A. Whitney. I'm sorry, her name just went out of my head. And then Madam, Will You Talk by Mary Stewart. I loved all these for different reasons. Again, House of Leaves is just bizarre and awesome. Even the reread was awesome on that. And The Stone Bull was great because it was a mystery that I remembered a lot about, but I couldn't remember how it all matched up together, and I really enjoyed the reread on that. It was much better than I remembered, and I was glad I took the chance and reread that because I was so worried I was going to not like it as a reread. And then Madam, Will You Talk was one I did not remember a single word about, except for maybe one scene near the end where I was like, oh, I kind of remember that. But the rest of the whole book was a complete blur. I did not remember it from that many years ago, and so it was just a great diving in, and I just love the character Charity. She was just, I loved it. So it was so much fun. And then question number 13 is, what was my least favorite? I'm still going to put down The Armored Saint by Mike Cole. I know I didn't finish it. I was 40 pages from the end, but I just could not do it. And it was the most disappointing, really. It was not just that I DNF'd it. It was really because it was so disappointing because I wanted to love it, and I did not. So that is my stats kind of for March. Maybe that didn't make a whole lot of sense because this month was kind of weird because I did so many rereading some books. But again, they were from so long ago that I didn't remember much of anything of most of them. You know how you remember little things, but I mean, some of these books I didn't remember anything, but it was so much fun to read them. So anyway, that's it. Hey, how was your reading in March? I hope you guys had fun with March Mystery Madness, because I did, and like, you know, next year will be just as fun. So but that was really fun. Now I got to read some other kind of books because I have had a lot of mysteries. So anyway, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.